Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleash Her. I'm Roberta, in case you don't know me, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Hey, listen, if you're not on YouTube, jump on over there so you can see us and watch this interview in person. It's at Roberta Campbell Official on YouTube. And make sure to subscribe and to like to my channel. I cannot wait to introduce my guest for today. So let me give you a little intro here. So prior to becoming a certified wellness coach and author of the Athena Principles, Simple Wellness Practices for Overworked Professionals, Kathy Robinson spent more than 25 years accessing the wellness of Fortune 500 companies. She was a chief audit executive and chief risk officer before leaving at the height of her career to start Athena Wellness, where she helps her clients optimize their well being, especially in times of transition. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Roberta. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you.
I
It's
still
an honor.
giggle when I hear that intro because for so many years I was introduced in a very different way. And so I still kind of get a kick. It's been years that I've owned my own business, but I still kind of get a kick out of that.
More of the professional.
I spoke on stages and for professional organizations, and it would be like, here's the chief. It was a very corporate kind of thing, and now
Oh,
it's like author and coach. It's like, yeah, who is that? Who is that person? It's
who
kind of
who
fun.
is she? I don't know, Kathy. Tell us, who is she?
I'm still finding that out. I'm still finding that out. But yeah, I started my career 3.5 decades ago, and I was on Wall Street for 18 years. I was in a Fortune 250 company for 15 years, and at 55, I was like, I'm done. I just knew like I'm done. And for the 5 years before that, I was trying to think about how would I actually want to spend my time? Because your career is just, you're always looking for the next thing. You're climbing the ladder. You're doing all the things you need to do to be successful. I never stopped and asked myself what I wanted to do. And so when I turned 50, I spent a couple of years just trying different things out. I thought maybe I'd be a personal trainer. I thought maybe I'd be a chef. Like I tried all these different hats on while I was still doing my job and found that everything that I was reading on airplanes, because I traveled a lot, it all had to do with living a good life. It was, physical health. It was mental and emotional health. It was spiritual health. And I found that I could be something called a wellness coach. And I'm like, well, that might be interesting. And that's how it all started to go. But when 55 came, I thought I was going to ride it out longer. But when
Oh,
55
you weren't,
came, it's like,
yeah,
it's like,
you
it's
weren't just
time.
sitting there waiting for retirement, huh?
No, no, no. Actually, what happened was I reported up to the board of directors. My board boss, who was my functional boss, retired. And 10 days later, my administrative boss, and I love both of these guys, he announced his retirement. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. There's no way that I'm going to go through. If I'm going to go through another cycle, I'm going to invest in myself and I'm going to start my own thing. And that's really what spurred me forward.
Wow. So with this wellness thing, so have you always been into health, nutrition, wellness?
I was a runner in high school and then I partied for about 20 years. I mean, I was on Wall Street in the 80s. You know what I mean? You've seen the movies. Like it was crazy. So
Really? So really it was like that?
it was kind of like that, yeah. And so for like 20 years, it was just that. And then in my mid 30s, I had just gotten a new position. I was working for Citibank at the time, and I remember I just wasn't feeling well, and I started to lift weights, and I couldn't even run. At that time, I got a treadmill, and I would like walk and then walk a bit faster and a bit faster, like I do walking intervals until I was able to build up my health again. But from the time that happened, that was my mid 30s until now, I've never stopped with health and wellness. And what a change. Like the fact that I feel better now than I did in my 30s still blows my mind.
Same.
Yeah.
Amen. We are here to say anything is possible.
Yeah.
You even you even just ran a marathon or something.
When I was still in corporate, it actually started with a bike ride. The company decided that we were going to do a charity bike ride from Boston to Manhattan. So it was like a 3 day, almost 300-mile bike ride. And so I had to train for that. I trained for that for about a year. And I hadn't been on a bike since I was a kid. And I hats off to the cyclists. Like it's a lot. It's a lot to like get your gear and get your bike and get you know, your bike rack. Like there's a lot to it, but it really put me in good shape. Like I really felt good. And the next year when that came around, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to train for and it wasn't just a marathon. I'd never run a marathon. I'm going to train for an ultra marathon because if you're going to do it, you might as well do it. And so at 54, I ran a 50K, which is 31 miles. And to prepare for that, I did run on a local track. I did like a marathon length run just to know that I could do it. But to me, that was all of that ultra stuff was a release valve because the pressure from corporate was so much. Like when I was out on the trails, nobody could text me, nobody could call me. Like I was out. And so I think it was more about that than, oh, I really want to run this ultra. I did, but I love the time on the trails and in nature. And that actually has led to some of the work that we'll be talking about a little later on.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And amazing. And congratulations for that.
Thanks. Thank
That
you.
is what an accomplishment. So I just saw my picture from I think it was how many years ago? 4 or 5 years ago or something. I did a 66-mile bike ride in one day. So that was a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does. It takes a lot to prepare for that.
Yeah. And I think that's part of, preparation. And I'm sure we'll get into this when we talk a bit about, I know you like to talk about confidence. It's like that's a big part of that, but I will save
Yeah.
that piece.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, what is this? So you're a proponent of the idea of rewirement.
That's right.
So
I
what does that mean to you?
it's been said that the longest journey you'll ever take is from your head to your heart. And what made me a successful corporate executive was very logical. Like, what's the next step? How do we get there? How do we execute? Having a vision, putting plans in place. That is all head based. And that's what I got paid for. You get paid to know the answers, you get paid to execute, you get paid for results. When I had the chance to do this all over again, I think part of the allure of this creating a business, it's almost like putting a puzzle piece, like putting a puzzle together, right? That's the way it kind of feels to me. And it's like, I have a chance to do this to one, prove it wasn't a fluke, that a kid that started with such humble beginnings got to live the life that I got to live through companies, a series of companies. How can I show that I could do this for myself? So I think part of business ownership for me is, can I do it again? But can I do it in a different way? And I think leaving corporate behind gave me this opportunity to live more holistically and to come from the heart space and coming. I mean, I was an audit executive. Like that, we're not known for our touchy-feely, like heart kind of, coming from that place. But the more I settle into myself and to be able to allow what's coming into the business to come from a different space, it's so much more enjoyable. You get to really connect with people, you get to really help people, and it just infuses my whole life with a different level of happiness and of, when if you would have told me like, you really need to live from a place of joy, I would be like, I don't have time for joy. But now it's like the more you can bring the feelings that you want into your heart and come from that place, the more things kind of just fall into place. It's really amazing. And I think that's part of what I'm here to teach, that yeah, it's great to come and to be able to achieve all of these things, but we do have opportunities to live differently and to bring different things as we get older. And as we trust ourselves and our inner knowing, we have a way of rewiring and being just as effective, but in an enjoyable way.
Yeah. Why can't we combine corporate and some little bit of wellness?
Well, I think we do, but I think we do it in a way that's not apparent to other people. And I'll give you an example. We say that, executives are so hardcore. I've been in boardrooms where I have brought evidence of like here's what the data is saying, and here's what I believe we need to do. And more than once, I've had people around that boardroom table go, I hear what you're saying, but it feels like, and so they're not intellectually saying, well, I'm checking in with my, call it whatever you want, source, inner self, whoever. They're really coming from a place of intuition, though. And it happens. The more successful the executive, the more I was able to see like they're connecting to something that is beyond facts and numbers. And I always found that fascinating, but nobody ever talks about it. So when I was leaving, in the first chapter of my book talks about when I said that I was retiring, going into wellness, I had a ton of people come up to me and they'd like look around and be like, I started meditating and it's really helpful. So like everybody's kind of doing it, but nobody's really talking about it. So I was hoping that part of the mission of Athena Wellness is to make it okay, like it's all right to listen to yourself, to listen to that inner voice, to that intuition, because it actually is leading you to the place where you need to go. So I believe it's there, but I believe it's unspoken.
Yeah, yeah. I interviewed a nurse who wrote a book based on intuition. And she was like, okay, so I've got to find the science behind it. And it has gone crazy, this
Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
and she's like, I have to listen to my intuition. Why do we have to go so much from just scientific basis? Like we
Yeah.
know this,
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So
especially in a hospital. So
yes, yeah, exactly. So I think that we're on, I think there's an appetite for this type of approach and this type of information. So good for
yeah.
her.
Yeah. I'm not in that. I've never been in the corporate scene. And so for me, I've always come from a place of just, being a hairstylist for many, many years. So I have to listen to my intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with your wellness, though, did you do a lot of research or, I mean, because I know I have too, and I continue to make changes in nutrition and wellness in my life. So is that something you continue to just keep studying and just keep doing better?
Yeah, I call it me search. I'm not big, like there are a lot of people that can go out and read all the studies and say, what the best fill in the blank thing is to do. I'm much more about these are things that have worked for me. Like try it, amend it. Anything that I recommend, it's like, how can you do it in a way that works for you? So, and it changes. When I was in corporate, I needed outlets. Like now I can't imagine going on a 25-mile run. I don't need that anymore.
Mm.
For a while I'm like, are you just getting lazy? Like what's going on here? It's like, no, that really was a release valve that's no longer necessary. So what can I do in its place? And that's when I started getting into like CrossFit and like kickboxing, and I still do short runs, but it's different because my needs are different. So it's a long-winded way of saying that, yes, I'm interested in what the research is, but it's more of how does it serve you? Because the whole point of wellness isn't about being the fittest person in the world. It's about staying well in mind, body, and spirit so you can do the things that light you up with the people you love. Like that's always my big close. That's the point. It's not about being, I placed first, or I did this, or I did that, I lifted this weight. Who cares? How do you feel? How does it impact your life? And how does it allow you to impact others as a result?
Yeah. Yeah. And stop comparing because everybody is so different.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
just yeah, yeah, we can't even go there. Even if we're the same age, every single thing, everybody is different and you have to find what you love.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
outlet, your
Yeah.
thing that keeps
Yeah.
you young.
Yeah. What serves you? What is serving you? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So how do you spend your days now? Do you have like a routine of getting up and spending do you have a mindful morning before you get started?
It's funny. I'm just writing because I've got a YouTube channel and a podcast, and I'm just writing an episode on practices because and comparing it to morning routines. Like morning and evening routines were like a really big thing, and I was really into them, but it's very external, right? It's about setting you up for productivity and how you can make the most out of your day. And now I'm more into the idea of, like I said, what's serving me? What's my practice? So now in the mornings, instead of getting up and trying to meditate, I actually have a journal that's right next to my bed. I find a way to take a few breaths and to be able to connect. I really have been able to, over the last year or so, have a strong connection with my inner intelligence, inner wisdom, inner guidance, call it whatever you want. But I ask myself a couple of questions of like, what do I need today? What do I need to know today? And what can I create? Like, what is it that I'm going to create in the day? And I just take some days I can write for a couple of pages. Some days it's just a couple of bullet points. But it's just a way of connecting. And when the weather is nice, I love doing that outside. But it has really guided my work now to be able to bring more of this intuitive practice into my coaching. And now it's going to be taking it outdoors, which is what my second book is due to the publisher May 1st, next week. So I've been doing a lot of work on these intuitive hikes or these intuitive walks and what that's going to look like from a practice standpoint. So it's super exciting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The inspiration and the ideas that I get when I go for a walk out here in nature,
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
it's incredible. I'll come inside, I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Okay, now it's time."
It does the heavy lifting. It does the heavy
It
lifting. So it's
does.
it's funny. I put myself through my own process. So I created this process. I The story that I tell, it's a story of midlife transformation, but it takes 15 years of my own transformation and kind of condenses it to like a couple of months to kind of get the story across and to make it a parable, if you will. But I decided a couple of weeks ago to put myself through my own process. And I'm like, I really want to take an intentional hike for myself. So I go to a local trail, and part of this process is the art of holding a question. Like, what is the question that you want to reflect on? It's getting yourself in that reflective space, but it's also, what's the question? So my question was, how do I take this work out into the world? That's my question. So I go off on the trails. I go around a lake. I go up to a reservoir. And coming back down about 45 minutes into the hike. And I'm like, for some reason, I flash back to when I was a kid. I grew up about a mile from Midtown Manhattan on the Jersey side. So you used to look up my block in New Jersey and see the top of the Empire State Building. There wasn't a tree to be found. And so here I am on a Friday at work, because this is work. I'm writing a book, right? In the middle of all of this beautiful, it was a beautiful spring day. And I'm like, what would that kid who grew up in an apartment in the middle of a city, what would that kid have thought of your life today, And then I was like, well, how did that kid get here? And again, this is all in my, I mean, people,
Yeah.
hikers are passing me by. This is all in my head, right? And I started going through and thinking about everybody in with such deep gratitude that helped me along the way. Whether it was my family when I was a kid, whether it was people, professors in college, mentors on Wall Street. Like these are seasoned professionals who took me under their wing, showed me the ropes, supported me, promoted me. All of these folks, all the way to like my bosses at the very end of my career. And I had like such a sense of profound gratitude. And then I literally felt a shift in my heart, like the energy shifted. And it's like the insight came, the insight that these hikes usually bring. And it was like, why would this be any different? Why would you not be able to bring this work into the world? Why would you not have the support? It's worked like this for decades. Like, why would this be any different? And I felt such a sense of ease and peace of like, you got this. And I got in my car and I was like, oh my God, like this works. Like this really works. This isn't just a book of like, hey, try this. Like this really works at a profound level. So to your point, it's this potent combination of nature and getting out of your head, shifting to your heart, but you do it intuitively just through the walking and just by being in nature. It's very conducive to that kind of insight.
Yeah. This sounds like Joe Dispenza,
Mm,
Dr. Joe Dispenza or something when you
mhm,
talk about rewiring too.
mm.
You know, did you do you work with coaches and mentors that helped guide you on this journey or is this
Well,
Uh,
like I said, I've had when I think of like mentorship, I had people, supporters along the way that I just outlined, all of these folks that kind of saw something in me that maybe I didn't. And then I have hired coaches. I hired coaches for me are when you need an immediate result. You're working on something and you need somebody who's been there who can kind of give you the shortcuts, but you're still putting the work in. And so when I was in 2018, before I was leaving corporate, I hired a coach, somebody who worked in corporate, who started her own business. She helped me create the business infrastructure. I mean, I was doing the work, but there was that guidance of like, okay, for the next 2 weeks, these are your marching orders. Create a website. I was like, create a website? Like, how would I even do that? And then you've got to find a way to do that. I outlined my book, started my blog, my mailing list, all under her guidance. So when I needed immediate results, coaches are great. And
mhm.
then there's this inner mentoring process where now I really can feel like if it's a yes or a no, and that takes a while to hone. But I think the more that I'm on point with my own, like, yeah, this is something I really want to do, and I can feel that level of enthusiasm, that's when I know I'm on the right. But so I think you become your own mentor over time. But at the beginning, yeah, you definitely need that level of support. And when the time is right and you really want to make that quantum leap, coaching is great. And those are my best clients, of people who are ready, not just somebody who kind of wants to make a change. It's like, are you ready to really make that leap? I can help you get there, but you've got to be willing to put in the work.
Yeah, true. Very well said. So it sounds like you have this confidence, and I want to know because Unleasher, this podcast is all about confidence, where people found that. And was that something that you were surrounded with that you had at a young age, or did you have to find that yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think I've always outwardly been confident, but it was hard won, right? So I didn't feel confident. There's a difference between being outwardly confident, being able to be seen as confident versus feeling confident. So for me to feel confident, there are really three things. The first is preparation. Like I am big, especially during my corporate career, when I had to give a board presentation, I used to call it woodshedding, and that's basically practicing in private, right? So create the presentation, then go through it until I was so sick of it, I couldn't even stare at the pages anymore. That's how I knew I was ready to not need the notes, to not need everything, and to be able to sit and just have a conversation. So preparation has always been really big. Presence, that trust in that inner guidance. Like I knew when I was on the right path, I could trust that things would unfold in a way that would be supportive. They weren't always in the way that I thought, but they were always to the greater good of whatever it is that I was trying to do. So I think over time I learned how to trust that as long as I was present, things would and prepared, things would work out fine. But the third thing was I'm a big process person. So once I figure out a process, which is what the books are about, right? It's like, look, this is how I've learned the hard way. Here's the shortcut to the process. But I'm very big in putting processes in place so I don't have to think about it. I'm not always, I can get out of my head and I can let things unfold, but I need to have an infrastructure. But that also allows me to take action. So when you're taking these small steps, it's moving you forward. It wasn't until a couple of years ago, I don't know when Atomic Habits came out, but James Clear wrote that book. Maybe it was 2019 or so. And he actually put words to all of this, and he calls it identity-based outcomes, right? So he says, decide the person that you want to be, and then prove it to yourself with small wins. So succinct. Like, here's all these years of like, to me, it felt like trial and error, but it's like, no, I was deciding the person I wanted to be. When I got to Wall Street in the 80s, I was female. I came from a blue collar background and I did not go to an Ivy League school. That was not a recipe for success on Wall Street. So I couldn't change any of that. So what I asked myself was, how can I be the team member everybody wanted on their team? So without realizing it, that's James's way of saying you created this identity and then you had these small steps. And so I found that over time, and I still do that. You know, when I was a chief audit executive, I wanted to be the chief audit executive that people came to with their problems. Not that I found something and had to fix it. Tell me something that you're struggling with, we'll fix it together. And even as a business owner, it's like, how can I be the business owner that's also the thought leader in the space? And then you find these steps that you take. To me, that's what builds confidence. It's those small wins. Like you don't see these huge gains that happen overnight. At least I don't. But I can and I do well when I can be prepared. And it's through that preparation that I think that gives me confidence for whatever is the next step.
I love that. And I have that book on hold right now. I have not read it yet, Atomic Habits. Very excited to dig into that.
Yeah.
And that's what I've heard about it too, is that it's really just it's one step at a time. And and challenging yourself. I have people say to me, "You're doing it. You're doing it." I'm like, "I'm doing it." Like sometimes I just jump into it without being prepared.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it helps build your confidence, then so what?
There are those, out of the nest moments where it's like you got to flap your wings and fly, otherwise you're going to come to a bad end, right? And that does happen from time to time, but I think it's through your past experiences. So you may not call it preparation, but you do have
Mhm.
past experiences that allows you to know like, okay, I'm falling, so I've got to do something. And you're pulling on something from your experience. You know, those books weren't available when we were growing up, but I think if I think back, I ran cross country when I was in high school, and we didn't have a girls' team. There weren't many girls that wanted to run cross country. So I ran with the boys. Faster, stronger, 15, 16-year-old boys. But where the playing field leveled out was on the hills. So I would get good at running hills. They would stop or slow down, and I'm like, this is where I get to speed up because I can outrun them here, where they're going to kick my butt if I don't do that. So even I was very mindful during my career of like, how do I set my gaze just like I did on those hills? Not look at the top, like I have to get all the way up here, but just what those next steps were and just keep taking them. So it's the same thing, whether it's business or whether it's life or whatever it is that people are kind of working themselves through. It's like, it's great to have a vision. That's not necessary to be able to take the next step. And sometimes the most surprising, unfolding way to go through life is just knowing that you're walking this path and it appears as long as you keep taking steps like it will unfold.
Yeah, yeah. And I never say that I made a mistake. It was just a learning experience. There are no mistakes in life unless you quit.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're not quitters.
Ain't gonna happen. There's no way.
That's right. Well, what does it mean to move from a type A to a type B lifestyle? I
Yeah.
guess you've been talking about that, but is that the title of is that your book? Or is that
Actually, it's a course. I
okay?
create. What's funny, when I left, I thought my job was going to be keeping professionals well, and that's why I wrote the book, The Athena Principles, right? How to simple practices to stay well while you're for professionals. What I didn't anticipate was, even though I wasn't really identified with my corporate identity, when you leave a long-term career behind, I was not prepared for the identity loss that comes with that. So suddenly you're out and people say, you should go to shake somebody's hands, like, what do you do? And it's like, what do I do? I was like, at first it was like, well, I'm retired. I'm like, no, I'm not retired. Like, I've got this other thing going. But I was in this liminal space where I wasn't who I was, but I wasn't who I was becoming yet. And it's like, what do I do here? It turns out, as I went through that whole landscape, I'm like, wow, this is really rich, fertile soil to help people through, to help people navigate. And so that's why I created the course From Type A to Type B, BE, how to mindfully descend the corporate ladder, or any, how to invite any next life chapter. And it is this idea of, you were once paid to know the answers. Now there's a process of, first of all, how do you create space to even hear any inner wisdom? Like, that was my first thing. I had to stop. I was always on an airplane. I happened to retire from corporate just as a few months before COVID hit. So not only did I retire, but we went into lockdown. So I was grounded. There were no airplanes, there were no airports. It suited me fine because I was creating this thing, but suddenly you're in your own company and it's like, okay, so this space was created for me, but for people who are in the world now, how do you create that space for yourself so you can listen? How do you question the assumptions, like, what used to work, does it still work? Do I want it to work? What do I do? So how do you go through this process of creating a new life? And that's what that course is about. So that's the interim. So there's the Athena principles to keep well, there's type A to type B to be able to create a new life chapter, and then there are these intentional hikes where there's this ongoing conversation with your own inner wisdom of, well, what is the right next step for me? Not that somebody's telling me needs to be done, but that I really feel I want to do and I want to find a way forward with.
Man, that's amazing. You're definitely on this journey of life that you have such a great example to show for so many people.
I appreciate that. It's been a heck of a ride, and I'm just getting started. I have no plans on stopping. So
That's
that's
what
what's
I
exciting about this. Like I'm building something for the long term, and it's thrilling.
that's what I say too. And what about the people that are like, "Oh yeah, but once you turn 50, like it's forget it. You're going downhill. You're gonna put on weight. You're gonna do this, do that." And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
accept it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll tell you, when I turned 50, I can remember when my dad turned 50. So I was a little kid, right? You remember that big milestone. When I turned 50, I felt like adolescence. I'd gotten out of a long-term relationship. I had just gotten promoted. I had this new job. I was traveling the world, and I'm like, woohoo! Like I was just, if not now, like smoke them while you got them. Not a great thing for a wellness coach to say, but it's like now is the time. Like seize the moment. And my 50s really felt that way, including a complete rewire of you were this person and now you have your own business. Completely different. I never thought that my 50s would end so differently and in such a positive way, but great. 60 hit me. Like when last year at this time, as I was coming up to 60, I'm like, that's a round number, man. Like 60 is just like you're 5 years away from Medicare. Like there's a lot going on. But I didn't feel my age. And I remember my dad passed about 2 years ago. My father lived to 101. And up until 3 months before he passed, full head of hair, dressed every day, walked and lived unassisted. Like he was the man. And he always told me, like, I still, in his mind, he felt like he did when he was younger. And it's like, I get that. And I think that's what keeps us like it really is a mental game. I think if you can be excited about what life is bringing and you have that mindset, nothing is carved in stone. I don't care about your genetics. People say, "Oh, well, your dad, you have good genes." I'm like, my father's parents died in their 40s and 50s. So how did he live 50 years? It was his mental state and what he believed in himself. And I think and I think we're all learning that now. Like we don't want our parents' retirement. He was retired for as long as I worked, my dad. Like it's unbelievable. People want something more, and I think that's what we're the way showers to be able to say you don't have to retire to a retirement community. Like there are things, and the world needs our wisdom. Like let's do it in whatever way is comfortable for you. Let's do it. Let's help the next generations to come. Let's help people through these times that we're in. We have the ability, and it's so rewarding, and it keeps us young as a result.
It does.
Yeah.
Well said. Very well said. So you had your father as this example for you that was confidence and health. And so is that where you took everything from? Let me just go back to this confidence for a minute.
Yeah, it's funny. I think my parents were Depression era, they were born in the 1920s. So I was born late in life. I have
Yeah.
a brother and a sister that are like a generation older than I am. So I came along late in life. So I think that
Yeah.
my parents always wanted more than they could give. Like my dad was a welder. He was a blue collar welder. He didn't have like to see his three kids achieve what we did was, I think, their greatest joy in life. So while they believed in positive thinking, they had a hard time applying it themselves. That makes sense. And so to see their kids take that to heart. So I can't say by example, but it didn't work it was actually fuel to be able to hear them say things like, you got to think positively, and you're looking of like, then why did we struggle so much when we were younger? and it's like I want more from myself. So it worked in a reverse psychology kind of way, I think, of like we know there's more for us. Not that we're throwing shade on our path. They did the best they could for what they had, and there was a lot of love in our life and growing up. But we were like, what more is there? I was never out of New Jersey until I went to work. I was never on an airplane, I think, until I went to college. I think I flew up to Maine or something like that. But then suddenly I have this job on Wall Street. They're flying me all around the world. It's like it's your intent. I think when you grow up, those seeds that are planted in your heart can come about in so many different ways. I never thought when I was growing up of, oh, I'm going to work on Wall Street. I worked on Wall Street because I had college debt and Wall Street was paying. Like that's how I wound up there. It wasn't a dream. But while you're there, it's like, how can I realize my dreams with the opportunity that I've been given? And I think for my parents to be able to see that, like that was, and that's what we hope for our kids and our great nieces and nephews and whoever we have in our lives, that you can be some sort of a beacon for them to say, I either want that, or it's not kind of what I don't want that. I want something different, but that's still helping me realize, give me clarity of what I want for myself in my life.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what's next for you? I mean, you have a
Yeah.
coaching program. You are leading others and
Yeah.
helping others find wellness in their life at an older age, or what do we say? No, I shouldn't even say I don't feel old.
Yeah.
At a
Yeah.
young, at a
As
midlife.
healthy, we could
I
just
don't
say
know.
healthy aging. Yes, it's
Yes,
midlife.
thank you.
Well, it's so funny. It's like I feel like I've got a portfolio now. It's like I work with companies if they're doing like offsites or retreats to help with wellness. And now it will be with some of these intentional hikes. I work with clients one-on-one. Sometimes people they want to create a business, or they want to do something else, second chapter of life, or they want to write a book. So sometimes I'll do some one-on-one work. With this new work, with this intentional hikes, I'm working with a national hiking association that I'm hoping to coordinate and partner with. So there's a lot of new things that are kind of coming online, but everything's on my website, whether it's courses or coaching, or I even have like a $99 Ask Me Anything for new clients. I love talking to people and what they're struggling with. So super easy way, if they don't want to do the big coaching investment, they still can connect, and they can always reach me by email.
Okay. Can you give us a couple of things that you do that you believe helps with your wellness? I mean, it could be something like, is supplement or grounding, or is there something that you could give us a couple of
Absolutely.
quick tips?
Sure. Yeah. First thing, like I said, I wake up in the morning, kind of hand over my heart and just try to connect with myself. Like, what do I need to know today? How can I make today amazing? And I definitely write those bullets down. I love to get outside first thing in the morning, just like open the door and just step outside and breathe in the air and just thank you for this day. Like as I get older, I am super grateful for my health, for my wellness, and for everything that's surrounding me. And I think starting the day from that place, I know it sounds cliche to start from a place of gratitude, but it really does shift your perspective during the day. As things come your way, as things do, I think it's a really good way to just ground and remind yourself of what this life is all about. I work out first thing in the morning. If I wait till the evening, it'll never happen. So I'm either at CrossFit or taking a trail run, or I'll do kickboxing on the weekends. Just something I move every day, even if it's a walk, even if it's a hike. Once we're done here, I'm actually going to go hit the trails. So I like to get out, and it's a discipline, especially when you work for yourself, to shut that laptop and to make that, because it is an investment to just clear your head and to come back and hit them hard again. So I think those are the three things, just moving my body. I do prep my meals for the week. So I will cut up all my fruit, do all the things that I need to do so I can kind of grab and go during the week. That's super helpful. But yeah, it's eating well, moving your body, and keeping your mind in a space that is just one of abundance and gratitude. Because when we focus on those things, we get more of that. I heard this great quote of, you don't get more of what you want, you get more of who you are. Meaning, if you're coming from a place of scarcity, I don't have this, it's a harder road. It can work, but it's hard. If you can incorporate the things you are wanting and see them in your life already, you attract more of those things to you. And so I love that. I try to use that as a guiding principle.
I we're studying the same stuff. We we that yeah. Yeah, guys, look, this is it. That is I believe that's the secret.
Yeah,
Secret for you, secret for everyone, really. It's not a secret.
yeah,
It's simple, but it takes dedication.
yeah. Consistency.
Yeah.
One of the Athena principles, consistency, showing up for
Mm.
yourself. Really, and it's really an investment in yourself, and you do see the return on investment to talk like a banker.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. It was so wonderful having you on here.
And I appreciate you. Such good questions and just
Yeah.
what a service you're providing to your listeners. Really, really helpful. I've enjoyed listening to your podcast and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Uh, I went through a lot the last few years. People have been through worse. I'm not saying that, but it woke me up.
Yeah.
And it's so great to hear from people like you that we are on the same journey in such different ways. But
Hmm.
we really are on the same journey. And it's so beautiful, you know, turning 50 was like, at first you're like dreading it. And then you're like, wait,
Yeah.
no,
Oh, yeah. You feel
okay.
like riding a
Now
wave. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Now I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Kathy. It was a pleasure meeting you. And
Good.
guys, make sure that you go and check everything out with Kathy. We'll have everything listed below in the information. So, yeah, definitely do. What an example. Thank you. And we're all gonna live to be 101, just like Kathy's
There we
father.
go. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you again. Thanks, guys. And until next time, we'll see you all soon.